If you're lucky, you might get 50 seasons to garden in your life. So if you're not using this season to improve the next, you might become compost before you finally build that dream garden. That's why in this video, Jacques and I are going to give you 5 things you can do next season to dramatically improve the performance and the beauty of your garden. Be honest with me, you've grown way too much of a crop before and had to compost it. For me this year, it looks like it's gonna be broccoli. I have a ton of heads here and I have to figure out some way to get rid of it. Shh. All jokes aside, both Jacques and myself are going to be working on our preservation skills in a big way this coming season. And I'm not just talking about canning your own tomatoes, although that's a fantastic thing to do. Take a look at this jar right here. Bright orangey red paprika that I grew from my own homegrown dried sweet peppers, ground it up and turned it into a spice that's lasted me throughout the entire season. I had a jar and a half of this, and it's been a great way to boost the flavor of everything that I've been cooking. And then you've got pickling. In a jar like this or a jar like this, you probably think pickled cucumbers, of course, were the quintessential pickle, but actually this year, we had at least 1 or 2 jars of pickled red onions going in the fridge no matter what throughout the entire growing season. So easy to make. It's just vinegar, salt, water, and whatever vegetable you want to put in here. So if you do have a bumper crop, I find a quick pickle, so a refrigerator stable pickle, but not one that you would actually can and put on the shelf, is such a good option. If you're ever curious how to do it, just Google the plant's name that you have too much of, quick pickle recipe. You'll get sent to a recipe site and you'll have to thumb through 42 paragraphs about when they found the recipe in Positano, Italy on their honeymoon, and then they couldn't stop thinking about it when they got home. But just jump to the recipe at the end and you'll figure out how to do it. But if both of those methods scream too hard to you, then just freeze stuff, guys. Just put them in the freezer. Look at these juicy toms. These are my sauce toms. I haven't turned them into sauce yet. I could just thaw them out, get that garden fresh flavor in my sauce or whatever else I want to use these for. Jacques got this going with his onions, his corn, his pumpkins. You might have to break the produce down a little bit. For example, with corn, you'd want to cut it off the cob and then freeze it, of course, or fruit, you might want to slice it up. But it is hands down the easiest way to preserve, and it'll last for quite a long time.
Our next goal is all about staples, but not these kinds. I'm talking about garden staples, the crops that feed the world. Potatoes, corn, wheat, rice. What if we reframe staples to be the things that you and your family love to eat and maybe spend the most money on? In fact, we'd love to hear what your #1 staple is down in the comments. And this year, we're pulling out our grocery receipts and we're gonna pick the crops that we spend the most money on that we actually want to eat. For me, it's lettuce, cabbages, broccoli, and cauliflowers, and I've got a whole bed of it right over here.
For me, it's onions, potatoes, and garlic, and that's over at my garden.
So this season, when you're planning your garden, buying seeds and starts, try to think about those staples that you love to eat and that might save you money. I'm going to be succession sowing this lettuce so that I get a harvest every 3 weeks, and I can't wait to see how much lower my grocery bills are.
What if I told you that by and large, most gardens aren't natural? Take the classic salsa garden. Tomatoes come from Western South America, peppers come from Central and South America, onions come from Central Asia, cilantro or coriander comes from the Mediterranean region, garlic comes from Central Asia, and limes come from Southeast Asia. So we're taking all these crops from different parts of the world and putting them in, let's face it, mostly an urban environment with concrete everywhere, and if we're lucky, a tree or two. So it's no surprise that a lot of our gardens lack wildlife.
That's why every season we try to attract more and more wildlife to the garden. That could be new bees, butterflies, moths, maybe new and bigger flocks of birds. And we do that using a variety of methods. One of them has been adding water features like the epic pond over there, which is always covered in birds. And the other one that we've been doing a lot is planting a variety of different flowers. The best bet is to use something like a native plant because the birds in your area are already known to eat that. But if you want to attract something like a hummingbird, you could plant something with a long red tubular flower, maybe a fuchsia. For songbirds, sunflowers are great because they could eat all the seeds and hide in the giant head. But that actually brings us to today's sponsor of the video, which is BirdBuddy.
BirdBuddy is a smart bird feeder that both holds birdseed and instantly snaps what they call postcards of the birds that visit. It identifies them and catalogs them in the BirdBuddy app for you. Both Jacques and I have a smart bird feeder pro in our gardens. Mine's actually attached to this old Christmas tree branch that I repurposed. As the birds visit, it collects video snippets as postcards and tells me which birds have showed up recently. It can even live stream with up to 10 people directly in the app, and it has a Birdopedia for additional information, on the birds that visit. BirdBuddy's mission is to inspire a global passion for conservation by strengthening our relationship with the nature surrounding our homes. And for us as gardeners, it helps us figure out if our planting efforts to attract more wildlife are working or not. And if you want to try it out, you can get your BirdBuddy at the link in the description or at birdbuddy.com, Amazon, or Walmart.
When you first start gardening, you might be really excited season after season to get out there and plant your annuals. But after 5 or 10 seasons, it starts to get a little bit old and start to feel like it's becoming a chore. And that is where perennial crops come in. Perennial is something that lives every single year. So it doesn't just die at the end of the year or when you harvest it. It could live for 2 years, 3 years, maybe 10, 20 plus years. And the annuals are the things we plant every year, like the cabbage, where you harvest it and it's done for the year. But there are a lot of great advantages to growing perennials. And the first one is that it actually saves you a lot of planting. For example, right now I'm in this artichoke patch and I don't have to do any planting whatsoever because these artichokes are going to come back reliably year after year, which means I don't have to worry about this patch at all. Another great bonus is that they often have big harvests, and a lot of those big harvests come all at once, such as like a peach tree might give you 100 peaches, and that's actually great because it goes towards our goal of preserving more food. All fruit freezes really easily, so it's no big deal if you get too much of it all at once. And as an added bonus, perennials require less work over their lifespan than any annual. This artichoke just needs to get harvested, chopped to the ground, and then next year it'll come back all on its own. The fruit trees, they just need to get pruned down every single year and to basically be watered. And the beautiful thing is that perennials aren't just limited to food crops. This bougainvillea here will look beautiful year-round, whether it's in bloom or not. It'll add texture, height, and color to your garden, keeping it from looking like a flat sea of green.
As you develop your garden over the seasons, you might find that it starts to become a place you want to bring people to. More get-togethers, more parties to host. But in the first couple seasons, if you're like me at least, you probably just focused a lot on the production. How much can I get out of my garden? And not so much how much can I enjoy being in the garden. That's why over the last 4 years building out my urban homestead here, I've added a ton of elements to beautify the space. Things like adding a wildflower border to my backyard veggie patch, or throwing down a fresh layer of wood chip mulch to replace what's being broken down. Or if you're in a smaller space, build or buy one new raised bed to expand your garden the next season. So to me, no garden space is complete without a way of actually enjoying it, which are words I would have never thought I would say over 11 years ago when I first started gardening. But this year we've put in pathways, we've expanded the planting of the epic pond, and of course we've added bird feeders like the BirdBuddy, which has been an incredible add to the garden, to be honest with you. These postcards that it records are a great way to chronicle how many new species are coming in, because of course when I first moved in here there was almost nothing in the way of birds. Now by way of planting there are a ton, and then adding these feeders and being able to capture those moments throughout the season has been a super rewarding way to see the fruits of your labor. So thanks again to BirdBuddy for sponsoring this video. Good luck on your garden goals in 2025. We will see you on the next one and in the next year. Good luck in the garden and keep on growing.